Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Some women don't walk into a man's life, they rearrange the gravity around it. Science backs it up. Psychologists have found that true romantic attachment can literally rewire the brain's reward system, making certain people feel magnetic in a way no ordinary crush ever could. Now imagine that gravitational pull belonging to a Sigma woman, the quiet storm who doesn't chase attention, bends to no social script, and somehow makes every room feel a little more electric when she enters. When a man falls for her, it isn't hearts and flowers predictable. It's a slow, almost secret recalibration of his instincts. He stops competing for applause and starts competing with his own ego. He notices things, tiny details about her silence, her independence, that most people miss because they're too busy talking. And here's the funny part. He might still swear he's playing it cool, but his actions keep betraying him like a nervous intern spilling coffee on his boss. Today we're pulling back the curtain on 20 hidden behaviors men can't fake when they're in love with a Sigma woman. These signs aren't cliché, and they're anything but obvious. Because loving a Sigma isn't a rom-com. It's a quiet revolution. Number 1. He accepts that he may never fully own the story. He feels both challenged and calmed in her presence, and that tension is exactly what keeps him hooked. It's not a tug of war. It's a rare balance he doesn't find anywhere else. Around most people, he either feels the need to prove something or he switches off completely. With a Sigma woman, those extremes disappear. She's the kind of person who pushes him to stretch his thinking without making him feel judged. One moment she's questioning an opinion he's repeated for years, and instead of getting defensive, he finds himself wanting to explore her perspective. She sparks his ambition because she carries herself like someone who answers only to her own standards. He starts noticing where he's been coasting, and not because she points it out. Just being near her makes complacency uncomfortable. At the same time, she has a grounding effect that quiets the noise in his head. Her independence, her ability to be completely at ease in silence, gives him permission to breathe. He doesn't have to fill every pause with words or grand gestures. Her presence slows his racing thoughts in a way that feels almost physical, like a steady heartbeat against the chaos of his usual routine. He can walk beside her without feeling the pressure to entertain, and that simplicity is more soothing than any escape he's tried before. This mix of stimulation and serenity becomes addictive. He can have a deep, challenging conversation with her, and then sit in total silence without it ever feeling awkward. It's a dynamic that reshapes his understanding of connection. He realizes he doesn't have to choose between excitement and peace. With her, he gets both. That realization sneaks into other parts of his life. He becomes more thoughtful in his work, more deliberate with friends, more aware of how he spends his time. It's as if her influence tunes him to a different frequency, one that demands growth but rejects unnecessary drama. The irony is that she's not trying to change him. She's simply being herself, self-contained, unshaken, and uninterested in playing roles. That authenticity is what draws him deeper. He feels alive because she challenges his complacency, and safe because she never asks him to be anyone but himself. It's a combination he can't explain to anyone else, but he knows he'd rather protect it than risk losing it. Number 2. He feels both challenged and calmed in her presence. He feels both challenged and calmed in her presence. And that tension is exactly what keeps him hooked. It's not a tug of war. It's a rare balance he doesn't find anywhere else. Around most people, he either feels the need to prove something or he switches off completely. With a Sigma woman, those extremes disappear. She's the kind of person who pushes him to stretch his thinking without making him feel judged. One moment, she's questioning an opinion he's repeated for years, and instead of getting defensive, he finds himself wanting to explore her perspective. She sparks his ambition because she carries herself like someone who answers only to her own standards. He starts noticing where he's been coasting, and not because she points it out. Just being near her makes complacency uncomfortable. At the same time, she has a grounding effect that quiets the noise in his head. Her independence, her ability to be completely at ease in silence, gives him permission to breathe. He doesn't have to fill every pause with words or grand gestures. Her presence slows his racing thoughts in a way that feels almost physical, like a steady heartbeat against the chaos of his usual routine. He can walk beside her without feeling the pressure to entertain, and that simplicity is more soothing than any escape he's tried before. This mix of stimulation and serenity becomes addictive. He can have a deep, challenging conversation with her and then sit in total silence without it ever feeling awkward. It's a dynamic that reshapes his understanding of connection. He realizes he doesn't have to choose between excitement and peace. With her, he gets both. That realization sneaks into other parts of his life. He becomes more thoughtful in his work, more deliberate with friends, more aware of how he spends his time. It's as if her influence tunes him to a different frequency, one that demands growth but rejects unnecessary drama. The irony is that she's not trying to change him. She's simply being herself, self-contained, unshaken, and uninterested in playing roles. That authenticity is what draws him deeper. He feels alive because she challenges his complacency, and safe because she never asks him to be anyone but himself. It's a combination he can't explain to anyone else, but he knows he'd rather protect it than risk losing it. Number 3, he learns the art of unintrusive care. He learns the art of unintrusive care, a skill most people never bother to master. Instead of grand gestures or loud declarations, his love shows up in subtle, almost invisible ways. If he notices the hinge on her favorite cabinet squeaks, it's oiled before she even thinks to ask. If her schedule is packed, he quietly rearranges his own plans so she has breathing room, never announcing the sacrifice. He pays attention to the little rhythms of her life, how she takes her coffee, the way she likes a room lit at night, and he adjusts the environment so it feels easier, calmer, more her. This isn't about playing the hero. In fact, the point is that she never feels like someone swooping in to save her. He knows a Sigma woman values her independence, so any act that smells of control or obligation would backfire. His care is a kind of background music, present, steady, and felt more than seen. He notices when she's had a draining day and slips her favorite snack into the kitchen without a word. If her phone battery is always low, a spare charger appears near her desk, no explanation given. The beauty of this approach is that it respects her space while still offering support. He's not trying to impress anyone, he's simply tuned in. He listens when she speaks, and even more when she doesn't, catching the quiet cues that most people overlook. It's the difference between someone who waits to be asked and someone who already understands what matters because they care enough to watch closely. This quiet attentiveness also changes him. He becomes sharper, more observant, more patient. He learns to take pride in effort without recognition, in giving without the need for applause. It's a deeper kind of intimacy, built on understanding rather than display. She never feels smothered or indebted, and he never feels the need to advertise what he's done. Over time, these small acts create a trust that words can't match. She senses that his presence makes life smoother, lighter, yet she never feels managed or owned. That balance, offering help without taking control, is rare, and it's exactly why she lets him close. His care isn't loud, but it's unforgettable, because it proves he sees her as capable and worthy of respect even when no one else is watching. Number 4. He respects her absence as much as her presence. He respects her absence as much as her presence, and that respect says more about his feelings than any constant stream of texts ever could. When she steps back into her own world, a weekend off the grid, a late night lost in her own thoughts, he doesn't treat it like a threat. There's no passive-aggressive checking in, no subtle guilt trips. He understands that solitude is part of who she is, not a commentary on him. Instead of chasing her attention, he lets the space breathe, trusting that her need for independence isn't a rejection but a rhythm she needs to stay whole. This kind of patience takes quiet confidence. Most people panic when someone they care about pulls away, but he refuses to fill the gap with noise. He might keep himself busy, focus on his own projects, or use the time to nurture friendships that don't always get attention. His life doesn't pause, it expands. That choice isn't detachment, it's faith that what they share isn't fragile. When she returns, he doesn't interrogate or demand a detailed account of where she's been mentally or physically. A simple "good to see you" replaces a list of questions. That absence of pressure makes her want to share on her own terms, and when she does, he listens without making it about his feelings. He understands that love isn't measured by constant access, and that a relationship isn't a surveillance system. His respect for her absence also sharpens the time they do spend together. Moments with her carry a deliberate quality, free of the clinginess that ruins so many connections. He values the texture of her company because he's learned to value its scarcity. Paradoxically, this makes their bond stronger. She feels free instead of trapped, and he feels trusted instead of ignored. This balance requires maturity, but it pays off. He proves that he can stand on his own and still be devoted, that he can hold space without holding tight. In a world where people mistake control for love, his ability to let her go and welcome her back without conditions becomes a rare and unmistakable sign of someone who truly understands what it means to care for a Sigma woman. Number 5. His competitive edge softens, but only for her. His competitive edge softens when he's around her, and it's not weakness. It's a quiet recognition of her strength. This is the man who usually treats life like a scoreboard. In business meetings, on the basketball court, even in friendly debates, he thrives on outsmarting, outperforming, and winning. But with a Sigma woman, that constant need to prove himself starts to feel unnecessary. She isn't impressed by dominance or showmanship, and he senses it right away. Power games simply slide off her like rain off stone, so he stops wasting energy trying to win her attention. Instead of measuring every interaction as a contest, he leans into collaboration. If they're brainstorming an idea, he listens instead of rushing to one-up her. If she has a strong opinion, he doesn't counter just to assert himself, he asks questions to understand. This isn't him going soft in general. Put him back in a boardroom or a high-stakes negotiation, and the sharp edge returns. But with her, it feels different. He's not afraid to admit when she's right, not afraid to follow her lead when she's clearly the expert. It's a shift from ego to respect. The change runs deeper than manners. He starts to recognize that true strength isn't about constant competition. Her presence exposes how exhausting that endless fight for dominance really is. Around her, he discovers that cooperation can be more powerful than conquest, that listening can reveal more than arguing ever could. He begins to value mutual growth over personal victory, a lesson that seeps into other parts of his life without him even noticing. What makes it striking is that she never asks for this. She doesn't demand he soften or prove anything. She simply stands as someone who cannot be conquered, and that reality rearranges his instincts. He finds himself enjoying conversations where there's no winner, projects where their talents blend instead of clash. The thrill of outdoing someone fades, replaced by the quiet satisfaction of building something together. This softened edge doesn't mean he loses ambition. If anything, it refines it. He still pushes himself, still chases excellence, but the need to dominate shrinks. Loving her teaches him that partnership isn't about control, it's about respect. And for a man who spent years treating life like a competition, that revelation feels both disarming and undeniably right. Number 6. He upgrades his inner world, not his wardrobe. He upgrades his inner world, not his wardrobe, because he understands that surface-level shine won't catch her eye. With most people, he could rely on the easy wins: new clothes, a fancier watch, a car that turns heads. But a Sigma woman isn't impressed by quick polish. She notices substance, not price tags, so he starts looking inward. Instead of dropping money on status symbols, he invests time and energy in his own growth. Therapy sessions replace shopping sprees. He picks up books that challenge the way he thinks, rather than ones that simply confirm his opinions. Skills he once dismissed as unnecessary, like learning to cook, practicing a new language, or improving his emotional intelligence, suddenly matter. This shift doesn't happen because she demands it. She never hands him a checklist of what to fix. Her quiet independence and depth act like a mirror, showing him where he's been coasting. He realizes that real confidence can't be bought. It has to be built. The conversations they share, the questions she asks, make him curious about the parts of himself he's ignored. He starts noticing patterns in his behavior, the habits that keep him stagnant, and he does the work to change them, not for her approval, but because being with someone like her makes complacency feel too small. He also stops treating self-improvement as a performance. There's no grand announcement that he's seeing a therapist or mastering meditation. He values the process more than the appearance of progress. The results show up in quieter ways. He listens more carefully, reacts with more patience, and carries himself with a steadiness that doesn't need an audience. His growth becomes something he owns, not something he advertises. Over time, this internal upgrade alters how he shows up in every area of life. Work conflicts don't rattle him as easily. Friendships become more meaningful because he approaches them with depth instead of convenience. He learns to set boundaries without drama and to speak his mind without aggression. These changes make him more grounded, and she notices, even if she never comments. What makes it remarkable is that he isn't chasing a finish line. He understands that self-work is ongoing, a practice rather than a project. Loving a Sigma woman inspires him to become a fuller version of himself, not a flashier one. The growth is real, lasting, and completely his own, a quiet transformation that outshines anything money could buy. Number 7. He lets her mystery stand. He lets her mystery stand, and in a world obsessed with oversharing, that's a rare kind of respect. Most people, when they care about someone, start digging. They want the backstory, the hidden scars, the reasons behind every glance or pause. But he resists the urge to turn her life into a puzzle he must solve. He understands that her privacy isn't a game. It's a boundary that protects the core of who she is. Instead of treating her silence like an invitation to pry, he treats it like something sacred. When she speaks about her past, he listens without rushing her to go deeper. If she changes the subject or keeps a memory to herself, he doesn't push for more. He doesn't frame it as a test of trust or a sign that she's holding back love. He knows she shares what she chooses when she chooses, and that her autonomy is part of what makes her who she is. His patience shows a maturity that many relationships never reach, the ability to love someone without needing to own every detail of their history. This acceptance changes the way they connect. Conversations aren't interrogations, they're exchanges. He stops trying to fill in every blank and starts appreciating the present moments for what they are. Her laughter, her ideas, the way she observes the world, those become enough. The unspoken parts of her story don't threaten him, they intrigue him, but in a way that doesn't demand answers. He recognizes that the unknown doesn't have to be a barrier. It can simply be a part of her life that belongs only to her. Over time, this respect builds a deeper trust than prying ever could. Because she feels no pressure to reveal everything, she chooses to share more on her own terms, and when she does open a hidden door, he receives it with quiet gratitude, never turning it into leverage or gossip. His ability to hold space for her mystery tells her that he values her freedom as much as her closeness. By refusing to treat her like a riddle to crack, he proves that love doesn't mean total access. It means presence without possession, curiosity without entitlement. In that calm acceptance, he gives her the rare gift of being fully herself, unfolding at her own pace, never forced, always free. Number 8. He matches her pace instead of forcing a timeline. He matches her pace instead of forcing a timeline, and that patience becomes one of the clearest signs of his respect. In a culture where relationships often feel like races, deadlines for commitment, expectations for milestones, he resists the urge to sprint. He senses that trust with her can't be hurried, so he adjusts to a rhythm that might look slow to outsiders but feels right between them. There are no ultimatums, no subtle hints about when she should move in, no countdown to the next label. He understands that love isn't a checklist, it's a steady build. This doesn't mean he's passive or unsure of what he wants. He knows his feelings, but he also knows that forcing them would break the very thing that draws him to her. A Sigma woman values autonomy, and she can feel pressure a mile away. Instead of pushing, he focuses on showing consistency, keeping promises, respecting her need for space, and letting the connection deepen on its own. His patience isn't laziness, It's a deliberate choice to create an environment where trust can grow without fear. Matching her pace also changes the way he communicates. He stops using urgency as a tactic and starts valuing clarity. If he wants to spend more time together, he says so, but without expectation that she'll rearrange her world. If she needs a night to herself, he doesn't treat it as rejection. He recognizes that a relationship with her isn't about merging schedules overnight. It's about building something that lasts because it was never rushed. This approach strengthens their bond in ways that quick timelines can't. She notices that he's steady, not because he's indifferent, but because he's secure. The absence of pressure allows her to relax into the relationship instead of guarding against it. Each step forward, whether it's a shared trip, a deeper conversation, or meeting his family, feels intentional rather than forced. His patience also reflects his own growth. He learns to sit with uncertainty, to value the process more than the destination. Over time, the trust they build becomes unshakable precisely because it developed in quiet increments. By matching her pace, he proves that he's not just chasing a goal. He's committed to the journey, wherever it leads, on terms they both respect. Number 9. His social circle starts to shift. His social circle starts to shift almost without him noticing, and that quiet rearrangement says a lot about the effect she has on him. Before, he might have tolerated friends who lived for gossip, constant parties, or endless small talk. But as he grows closer to a Sigma woman, the pull toward those shallow dynamics weakens. It's not that he makes a dramatic announcement, or cuts people off in a burst of self-help zeal. It happens gradually, like gravity changing direction. The late-night hangouts that once felt entertaining start to feel noisy and thin. Conversations built on complaints or competition lose their appeal because he's tasted something deeper. Her presence sets a different standard. She values authenticity and self-possession, and without ever saying it, she makes those qualities feel magnetic. He begins to crave friendships that feed him instead of drain him. The people he keeps close start to share traits that echo what he admires in her: curiosity, independence, substance. He finds himself spending more time with friends who challenge ideas rather than recycle gossip. People who can sit in meaningful silence or dive into big conversations without posturing. This shift isn't about isolating himself or becoming a social snob. It's about alignment. He recognizes how energy is contagious, and he no longer wants relationships that keep him stuck in habits he's outgrown. Old acquaintances who thrive on drama may notice the distance, but there's no fight. The connection simply fades because the common ground isn't there anymore. In its place, he builds a circle where respect and real dialogue feel natural. What makes this change powerful is its subtlety. He never tries to imitate her or prove anything. He simply starts valuing what she values, because being with her highlights what actually matters. The friends who remain notice a difference in him: more present, more thoughtful, less distracted by trivial rivalries. He's not abandoning his past. He's evolving his environment to match the person he's becoming. Over time, his relationships look more like chosen family than a crowd. The conversations are richer, the laughter is cleaner, and the bonds are built on trust instead of spectacle. Without a single ultimatum, she's inspired a quiet transformation. He surrounds himself with depth because shallow company no longer fits the life he's building beside her. Number 10. He drops the nice guy mask. He drops the nice guy mask, and it's one of the most revealing signs that he's serious about her. Most men spend a lifetime performing politeness, smiling when annoyed, agreeing when doubtful, smoothing over their own needs to avoid conflict. Around a Sigma woman, that act becomes useless. She doesn't respond to charm that's built on fear of confrontation or craving approval. She senses authenticity immediately, and any pretense only pushes her away, so he stops pretending. He stops trying to be agreeable for the sake of appearance and starts showing his real edges, the opinions, quirks, and even flaws he usually hides. This shift doesn't mean he becomes rude or reckless. It means he communicates without filters designed to impress. He expresses disagreement without fear of losing her approval, shares his true ambitions without exaggeration, and admits vulnerability without wrapping it in a performance. There's a confidence in that honesty that no polished facade could replicate. She doesn't need him to be perfect. She needs him to be real, and he finally understands that. Dropping the mask also changes how he navigates conflict. He no longer tries to smooth over every tension to appear nice. He's willing to stand his ground, knowing that a healthy argument doesn't threaten their bond. By showing his edges, his limits, his passions, his raw thoughts, he earns her respect in a way politeness alone never could. She doesn't just tolerate his authenticity, she values it, and that mutual recognition deepens the connection. At the same time, he discovers something about himself. He realizes that the mask was more exhausting than he'd admitted. Without it, interactions feel lighter, and he no longer measures every word to maintain an illusion. His confidence grows not from manipulation, but from the simple act of being fully himself. That freedom radiates, making him magnetic in a way that fake niceness never could. By dropping the nice guy act, he demonstrates that love isn't about performing a role. It's about showing up fully. The edges, the quirks, the imperfections, they aren't liabilities around her. They're proof that he trusts her with his real self, and that trust is the foundation of a bond that no performance could ever create. Number 11. He chooses conversations over performances. He chooses conversations over performances, and it changes the entire dynamic of how he engages with her. With most people, a man might try to impress through gestures, appearances, or carefully curated displays, expensive dinners, flashy compliments, or rehearsed charm meant to win approval. With a Sigma woman, those tactics fall flat. She doesn't respond to performance, she responds to depth. So he shifts his energy from the superficial to the substantial. Fancy dates and grand gestures take a back seat, replaced by long, idea-heavy talks where thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives are exchanged without pretense. He'd rather stay up late discussing philosophy, life, or the patterns he sees in the world than recite lines meant to sound impressive. He's more interested in understanding her mind than earning points for charm. Every conversation becomes a window into her way of thinking, a space where authenticity is valued over entertainment. His questions are curious, not manipulative. His listening is active, not performative. He invests in dialogue because he knows it's the only way to connect with someone whose worth isn't measured by surface-level attraction. This approach also reshapes how he sees himself. He begins to value his own thoughts and opinions in ways he never did before, understanding that his intellect, insight, and perspective are just as important as his actions. He stops performing to earn approval and starts participating in a shared exploration of ideas. That shift from performance to genuine engagement is subtle but profound, and she senses it immediately. There's an understated intimacy in choosing conversation over performance. He doesn't need to dazzle her with appearances or gestures. He gains her respect and attention by being present, thoughtful, and willing to engage on a deeper level. The bond they build feels richer because it's rooted in understanding, not spectacle. By prioritizing dialogue over display, he proves that he values substance over superficiality, connection over approval, and authenticity over image. In a world that rewards showmanship, this choice makes him stand out. Not because he's flashy, but because he's rare. Someone who can meet a Sigma woman on her level mind to mind without losing himself in the process. Number 12. He watches without needing to be seen. He watches without needing to be seen. And it's a behavior that speaks volumes about how deeply he cares. Around most people, observation can come with an agenda, checking reactions, measuring influence, or positioning oneself to control the situation. With a Sigma woman, that instinct fades. He observes not to dominate or manipulate, but to truly understand the rare energy she carries. Whether she's speaking in a group, navigating a difficult conversation, or simply lost in thought, he notices the nuances, the flicker of emotion in her eyes, the way she moves when she's confident, the quiet moments that most people overlook. This kind of attention isn't obvious or performative. He doesn't make his presence felt, doesn't interject to demonstrate interest, and never hovers. Instead, he occupies a quiet corner of her world, absorbing details that reveal her essence without imposing on it. It's almost instinctual. He wants to know her in a way that respects her autonomy, allowing him to respond to her needs and moods without demanding explanation. Over time, this creates a subtle intimacy. She feels seen not because he broadcasts admiration, but because he understands her rhythms and presence on a level most others never attempt. He also learns patience through this quiet observation. He can witness her in moments of brilliance or frustration without reacting impulsively. This allows him to interact with her thoughtfully, knowing when to offer support, when to step back, and when to simply share the space. His attentiveness is steady, consistent, and unpressured, which builds trust in ways that loud gestures cannot. There's also a self-refining effect. Watching without needing to be seen trains him to become more mindful, more present, and more aware of subtle dynamics in life beyond just their relationship. He develops empathy and insight that extend into his interactions with others, making him a more grounded and perceptive person overall. Ultimately, this behavior isn't about control, influence, or validation. It's about connection without ownership, understanding without intrusion, and intimacy without performance. He sees her fully, quietly, and without expectation. And in doing so, he aligns himself with the rare depth and independence that define a Sigma woman. Loving a Sigma woman isn't a simple game of gestures or words. It's a transformation. A man who truly falls for her reshapes himself quietly, subtly, and profoundly. He learns to respect her space without chasing, to value depth over display, to match her pace instead of forcing a timeline. He drops masks, abandons performative charm, and shows up with authenticity that most people can't even imagine. He observes without controlling, cares without imposing, and grows from within because she inspires him to rise to a level he never knew he could reach. Every action, from his unintrusive care to the way he shifts his social circle, reflects an understanding that loving her is not about possession, it's about alignment. He doesn't demand answers to her mysteries, he cherishes the parts of her that remain untouchable. He balances challenge with calm, intellect with patience, proving that real attraction is measured in presence, respect, and genuine connection, not in displays or performance. Ultimately, the man who loves a Sigma woman becomes a better version of himself, not because she demands it, but because being with her reveals what real love, respect, and depth truly require. It's rare, it's intense, and it's transformative. If you found this breakdown insightful and want to explore more about the extraordinary dynamics of Sigma personalities, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, comment your thoughts, and share this with someone who needs to see it. Dive deeper and see how these lessons can shift the way you understand relationships, growth, and connection.